Welcome back to Women's Leadership Success. I'm Sabrina Brahm. In part 1, we explored the foundations of powerful negotiation. But now, we're stepping into the conversations that will test your leadership. The ones that shake your confidence, stall your progress, and steal your sleep. The confrontation with an angry stakeholder. The compensation talk where everything's on the line. The politically charged conflict dividing your team. If you're leading people, influencing change, or making high-stake decisions, these are the moments that define you. My guest today, Scott Walker, is one of the world's most experienced kidnap-for-ransom negotiators. With over 300 cases resolved, including piracy, cyber extortion, and boardroom-level crises. He now trains leaders at Apple, McKinsey, Zoom, and more to lead under pressure, negotiate with confidence, and influence without authority. His Sunday Times bestseller, Order Out of Chaos, is a masterclass in communication when failure isn't an option. Today, Scott shares tone, intent, outcome, the exact system he uses when lives are on the line, now adapted for your toughest workplace conversations. You'll learn how to build trust through tactical empathy, stay grounded when someone just wants to fight, and navigate conversations you thought were impossible. The difficult conversation you're avoiding? That's where your next level of leadership lives. Join us now.
Welcome to Women's Leadership Podcast, showing you how to influence people, improve your performance, and advance your career. Brought to you by women's leadership and career expert Sabrina Brahm and womensleadershipsuccess.com. Here's your chance to meet women trendsetters leading the way to success, accomplishment, and balance in business and life. No matter if you're a manager, CEO, or entrepreneur, join Sabrina for coaching and no-nonsense advice to improve your career and bottom line.
Okay, so we're now talking to Scott Walker. Welcome, Scott.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. And wanted to know more about the science of influencing people. You talk about listening to the verbal message and nonverbal messages. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, well, the framework that I teach is like the 6 elements to it. And you start off with the mindset and emotions, and then you do your preparation. But the third bit, this is to your question there, it's about understanding their world, because you can't influence somebody unless you already know what influences them. You're wasting your time. It's the height of arrogance, and you're not really going to succeed long term anyway. And so the way we can truly understand somebody's world, i.e. their beliefs, their values, their rules, how they make decisions, what their primary emotions are, we have to do that by listening. And most of us think we're the world's best listeners. Although I don't know about you, Sabrina, but I'm guilty of just going through the motions in listening at times with people. Mm-hmm. But equally, I've also been on the receiving end when I know this person in front of me or on the phone is just thinking about a million other things than what I'm actually saying. And it's infuriating. And I don't know of anybody who has listened themselves out of a job or a relationship, you know?
So
and
true.
So I came up with this concept of 5 levels of listening. Okay. It starts off with levels 1, 2, and 3, which are listening for the gist of what's being said. Mm-hmm. You know, you may be listening to the person, but you're actually really thinking about your Amazon delivery or something. Or you're listening, waiting to rebut what they're saying. You know, we're going to wait till they've finished, and then we're going to give our side, you know, tell them how wrong they are. Or actually, we might not even wait until they finish. And we're just going to overtalk and cut them off and tell them why they're wrong, whilst they're wrong. Or we may listen for the logic. But we want to get to levels 4 and 5. And these levels are when we listen for emotion, but we're also listening for point of view. It's not so much what is said, but we want to listen for why these words are being said by this person now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking about the everyday things, what do you want for dinner or what movie should we watch? But I'm talking about, we all know the kind of conversations I'm talking about here, business or personal. Why is this person telling me these words now? What are the real issues here? You know this as a coach.
Mm-hmm.
Usually the presenting issue or topic is not the real issue or topic. It's usually 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 levels below that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Mm-hmm.
just presenting as something else.
I
And
think
so,
that's something that most people don't realize, that presenting thing is not really the issue, that it's
yeah,
deeper than that.
absolutely. But if we can just, as negotiators, and we're all negotiating, as we spoke about earlier, is we want to be the world's best listeners. We want to be listening. Okay, why is this person telling me this now? What's the real issue? What are the underlying human needs that they're looking to be met here? I'll give you an example. Dealing with kidnappers, yes, they wanted money, but it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't just about the money. They wanted to save face, to have or feel like they were in control, for example. And that's a big one. They want to feel a bit significant. Okay. And it's the same in business. The kidnappers were the easy ones to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, on a case, most of my time, 80% of my time was actually dealing with my own side. We called it the crisis within the crisis. You
Mm-hmm.
can imagine in a big corporate environment, there's lots of egos, lots of
Mm-hmm.
silo thinking, competing demands. And actually, it goes back to that sensory acuity we were talking about earlier. But it's being able to understand, okay, what is the need of this person? What are they really seeking? And if you can meet the need, you can overcome any surface level objection or demand. And there was never a demand that I wasn't able to negotiate through. Never. Because I was looking for what was the need. I met the need and it enabled me to then negotiate and influence and try and change the want or the demand if it wasn't appropriate.
I love that. I'm thinking, I used to think I had to figure out my argument because I had to show that I had as good an argument as they had, so I had to prepare.
Mm.
And what I found is listening and not preparing, I actually come up with better questions and responses than if I would have been preparing the whole time they were talking.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. And when I talk about preparation, I'm talking more about you preparing yourself.
Right, beforehand.
If because you can't go into a situation, a negotiation, a sales call, or HR conversation if you are not in the best place psychologically and emotionally, because it's not going to end well or as well as it could do.
Mm-hmm.
And so rather than over preparing and getting all the data and all as much stuff as you can about the other person, just bring more curiosity than assumption. Because as I like to say, assumptions are just like earplugs. They get in the
Mm-hmm.
way of you understanding what is really going on for the other person. And again, the saying has been around for thousands of years, but for a reason. Seek first to understand before being understood.
Right.
And if
It's
you
like
can bring
intense curiosity.
100%, if you can bring that curiosity and go, right, even though I know a bit about this person, I really want to, through asking questions and listening and other techniques we can go on to, I want to extract everything that's going on for this person. And if I do that, if I can suspend my own ego, the person, the client, the customer, the colleague, they're going to tell me everything I need to know to close the deal.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to explain what their pain points are, what they tried before, the issues, their goals, their dreams, their desires, their outcomes. And then all I've got to do then is help them achieve that. Because whatever the product or service I have, if it fits, it's going to help them do that, to build that bridge.
And it seems like most people don't get listened to. So the very act that somebody is totally listening to you, finding, eliciting more information from you, that's a big deal for most people.
Yeah, we all like to feel seen, heard, and understood, right? And
Exactly.
how many of us can be sat there, whether or not it's on a Zoom call like this or on a phone call in person, and just think, wow, this person really gets me. They don't have an ulterior motive or an agenda, or they're not judging me. I just feel genuinely listened to. And it goes a long way for sure.
It does. So if tensions escalate, how do you control the pace and help people get back to a more grounded position?
Yeah, there's a mnemonic people can remember. I like my food. I like eating pies, and so a mnemonic is more pies. Morepies. I'm not going to go through all of them now. You can find in the book, but essentially, these are some techniques that people can do to demonstrate essentially what is empathy. It's like an empathy loop. Okay, and I'll go through a few of these for you. And people, first of all, they misunderstand what empathy is and what it isn't.
Mm-hmm.
Empathy is not the same as sympathy. I don't have to feel your pain or frustration to empathize. I had to empathize with every kidnapper, and I've had to empathize with every family. I've had to of the hostages. I've had to
Mm-hmm.
empathize in every business setting. And all this is, it's me being able to demonstrate an understanding of where the other person is at. I have to be able to demonstrate what is going on for them. And this is particularly powerful when we disagree. If we're at loggerheads, if we can't come up with a solution to close the deal or resolve the workplace conflict, I just need to be able to demonstrate my understanding of your side, not some passive aggressive loaded comment, but genuinely see this from your perspective. And one of the more pies techniques is emotional labeling. And we've touched about this.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like, it sounds like, it feels like, and then you fill in the blank. But one of my favorites there that goes along with this is a bit of paraphrasing. As I gave you the example earlier, it's Sabrina, right? You seem really angry with my behavior in this deal. This is taking a long time. You feel like I haven't really delivered on what I said I was going to do. You feel as if I'm just taking you for granted and your goodwill for granted here. And actually, you probably don't have much trust left in me being able to follow through and completing this on time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I may think you're completely wrong. I may think, actually, I've done everything possible that I can do. And you're just seeing this from some misguided viewpoint. It doesn't matter at that point. But by me saying what I just said there, I'm looking to see it from your perspective. And you'll go, Scott, yeah, you've hit the nail on the head there. That's it. Or you may go, well, no, it's not that. It's this. Or you
Mm-hmm.
may go, no, I'm not sure where you're getting that from. But either way, I'm getting data back.
Mm-hmm.
And also you then feel as if I'm making the effort to be seen, heard, and understood. So this is a way we can really diffuse some of that tension. Depending on how far it's got, the tension, you
Mm-hmm.
can remember, stay on the riverbank, take a break. Like sometimes if the calls with kidnappers were getting a bit out of control, a bit out of hand, I would just hang up, just end the call, and then watch the client panic. So don't worry, they'll phone back. But it just interrupted the pattern. It gave everybody a couple of minutes, go and get a drink, get a coffee, get some water, get some fresh air, take some deep breaths, let's come back in, let's ground ourselves, feet on the floor, feel our feet on the floor, orientate ourselves to the outcome of the next call, and we can get back on it.
Well, I love that because my next question was, what if the person is just intent on they want a conflict, they don't want a resolution, and
Hey, you know what? It seems like you're really passionate about this and you're really keen to get a resolution on this right now. However, from this position, is it okay if I just share with you where I'm at with this? Well, actually, I'm not in a position to make a decision on this deal today for the following reasons: A, B, C, D, and E. What's the other person going to say? Well, I demand that you make a decision now. It's like, well, how am I going to, how can I do that? I know I can sense, it looks to me like this is so important for you that I can't walk out of this room until you get a yes or no answer. And what people do if they want to avoid conflict is they'll just kind of give a bit of a fluffy, non-committal answer, which will just wind the other person up, or they'll say yes, they'll get buyer's remorse, the resentment will build, and that's when the deal will fall apart later on. Whereas if I can not be emotionally hijacked, stay grounded, hold my own, I don't have to be rude or belligerent, but I can hold my own in the conversation, like I just gave in that example,
Right.
it just diffuses it, because the person can't fight with themselves for that long. After a while, they just it just dissipates and it dies out.
Yeah. Interesting. Especially if you're not matching that anger. If you can stay grounded, put your awareness in your body and your feet and stay grounded, that really makes a lot of sense. What's the challenge of winning?
What's the challenge of winning? Did you say?
Yeah. Yeah, right.
The challenge of winning, I think, depends on how you define winning.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Winning the deal. I'm thinking in my relation, in my very good marriage, if I'm right, I apologize immediately because what I've found is if I won the argument and now like I'm right, you're wrong, that does not make the relationship any better.
yeah,
It's like, what was the point of winning? To say I'm how great I am, or is it that I want to have a better relationship with this other
yeah.
person? And I'm
So,
just
so you
curious.
won the battle. You won the battle, but you lost the war, right?
Exactly.
And yeah, again, I got taught this a long time ago that everybody, everybody in a negotiation, and remember, we're having negotiations all day, every day.
Hmm.
Everybody needs to walk away feeling like they've got something from that conversation, from the deal.
That is a super important thing.
Because if I feel I've left literally or metaphorically money on the table and I feel like I've been had over, I've been taken advantage of,
Right.
we may have resolved that one issue, but going back to that trust thing and influence we spoke about earlier, am I really going to trust you again if you've kind of wrung every last cent from me or whatever the equivalent is? It's not. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to give up things you're not prepared to give up. But everybody, from kidnappers to kids to clients and customers, everybody needs to feel as if they can walk away with their needs met as much as possible. Now, everybody understands you can't go into a negotiation, to a conversation, and demand that you get absolutely everything that you want. They have to, and
Hmm.
people, let's talk about compromise. But again, there's other negotiation experts out there, I won't mention any names here, who talk about, avoiding a win-win. Win-win's a dirty word. No, it's not. Because everybody wants to be able to walk away. You don't have to compromise the crown jewels. You can have boundaries, but you need to go into a position that I can't walk away from this, making you feel as if you've lost this. Even if in reality you have, and I do have the better argument, as you
Hmm.
said there, it's how we come to that resolution. And I came up with this little test. I called it the mirror never lies test when it comes to
Hmm.
winning. And I teach my kids this, and I teach clients this as well, around if after a conversation, a negotiation, a deal, at the end of each day, whatever it is, you can look in the mirror and you'll go, do you know what? I gave absolutely everything. I approached it in the best way possible. I was empathetic. I brought compassion, intention, focus, hard work, whatever it is for you, whatever we're talking about. And the outcome ended up as it did. You can look yourself in the mirror and know that you did your best. as opposed to, because the mirror knows if you're going to lie or not, if you're lying to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You can lie to everybody else, you can hoodwink everyone else, but you look in that mirror and it never lies to you. And so that for me was a litmus test of winning and losing in the sense of what we're talking about here.
Beautiful. Can you share a story of a time when things were broke down and then the communication breakthrough turned it around?
Yeah, I often give an example of because as you can appreciate, most, if not all, the negotiations I got involved in, there were very strict NDAs in place. But I'll give you a story that I'll share. 6 people had been taken by pirates off a ship, been hijacked, and it took a while for us to get the call from them. And I'm working thousands of miles away from home in an embassy compound with the company as well of the hostages. And I'm working with a guy who's going to be our main communicator, our negotiator, because of the language barrier. And so we've planned our call, we've got our strategy, we know what we're going to do and say, and the kidnappers call. And it's like, hello, yeah, we have your people. We want $5 million or we'll kill them. And great, game on. Now the negotiation can start. We've done a bunch of fives, you know what we're going to do. And then over the course of the next few weeks, we get them down from 5 million down to 500,000. And it's not just about saving money. There's other reasons why we want to reduce the demand, which I can come on to. But Sabrina, it's taking its toll on my friend here, my colleague, who's acting as a communicator, because these are his friends. And the bad guys are doing mock executions. They're really putting us through the mill on this. And he's a broken man. You know, he hasn't shaved in days. He hasn't showered in even longer. Like, I'm sat next to him for 16 hours a day. And then the next day he comes in, he's on the phone with the kidnappers, and the kidnappers are demanding more money. And my colleague is like, please, we just need more time. We're a poor company. Oh, and look after my people. Look after my friends. They're your responsibility. And there's a pause. And the kidnappers turn around and they go, no, they're yours. The money by Friday, or we'll execute every one of them. Call ends. And then you can hear a pin drop. And then my friend, the colleague, turns to me and his fist comes down on the table, smashes the table. He stands up, turns to face me. And I'm thinking, being punched by the client is never a good look. And he turns around and storms out. And I'm sat there. I've got government officials in this country. I've got corporate C-suite here. And one of the main clients has walked out. I'm thinking, right, I now need to take the initiative and a calculated risk here, which we all need to do when we approach these conversations. And so I think, okay, the kidnappers are easy. I've got the kidnappers where I want them. They're not going to harm the hostages. They just want the money. So I now need to take a risk, and I need to put my focus and attention and use every technique and approach that we've spoken about in this podcast to work with this guy, to work with my colleague, to bring him back, to him to feel seen, heard, and understood, to realize that actually in a negotiation, we're negotiating identities, how we see ourselves in the world. And he saw himself as a failure because he'd allowed his friends, his colleagues to get in this position. So, you know, I work with him 24 hours, 36 hours. He comes back in. We speak with the kidnappers again, and we get a deal for $300,000. And you may think, great, everyone's cheering. That's it. But as I mentioned to you earlier, the most dangerous time in any negotiation is just when you think you're winning. Because now we've got $300,000 on a table in one country. We need to get it bagged up across the border into another country to the kidnappers, hand it over, get the hostages, make sure they're okay, get them back to safety without anyone else, without the police, the military, other gangs finding out what's going on. I mean, what could possibly go wrong, right? Well, let me tell you, because every 4 hours, this courier who we got to take the money was supposed to phone in. Okay, every 4 hours to give us an update. because the kidnappers were also phoning in wanting an update with how he was getting on. 4 hours go by, we don't hear anything. 8 hours go by, we don't hear anything. You can see where this is going. 12 hours, nothing. And about 13 and a half hours later, I get a call. He's been arrested by the local police who've got wind of this and are refusing to let him or the ransom money be released.
Oh my gosh.
We managed to fly somebody more senior than the chief of police down, who persuades him to release the courier and the money, well, most of the money, local taxes and everything. And then I think, great. Meanwhile, the kidnappers are going apoplectic, thinking we're going to rip them off. And so the courier then legs it. He wants nothing more to do with this. So I'm left with this money, but not all of it, in this country without anybody to hand it over to the kidnappers in the middle of a jungle somewhere. And so it's turning out to be a pretty tough day in the office, to be sure. But I managed to find somebody else who is willing to take the money. And this is the only time in 300 or so cases of different types where it happens like in the movies, because the courier has to hire a boat, goes out to a waypoint at sea. Kidnappers, the pirates come alongside. They count the money, they hand the hostages over. And for everybody listening, whichever company you work for, you may think you've got great customer service, but you've got nothing on these guys, because the kidnappers turn around, they hand the hostages a clean, brand new mobile phone, and they said, if you get into trouble whilst you're still in country, give us a call and we'll come and help you out free of charge.
Oh my gosh.
And they escorted them back to safety, wished them well, and made sure they were safe to be handed over.
Oh my gosh. That is really unexpected. That is an incredible story.
But the point, Sabrina, this is the principles that we've gone through worked to a T in this case, in which if it could go wrong, it did go wrong. Lives were at stake. Companies were on the brink. High pressure from up on high, and the emotional hijack was ever present. And I would just say to people, just take the initiative and a calculated risk when you can.
And keep the good thought of what you want to have happen. Don't feel defeated before you do everything you can possibly do.
Absolutely. There's always a way. I'm a big believer in nothing gets put in front of you that you're not able to resolve or overcome. Otherwise, it wouldn't be put in front of you in the first place.
Yes. We talked about this on the break, and we have a really challenging problem in the United States right now. There's two sides to the political issue, and it's totally different than anything in the past, and that is nobody's talking to the other side. And that's a big problem, and the only way this country is going to survive or heal is to begin to cross that chasm and talk to each other. That is challenging, but I know a lot of people on both sides that would like to do that. Can you give us some help with that? What would help what are beginning moves we can make?
Yeah. I think a lot of it is to realize the golden rule of good conversation and negotiation, whether or not that's in a family, in a community, or a country level, is it's not about you. And what I mean by that is, of course, it's about you in terms of how you feel and what's in it for you there. But if you approach the conversation with what's in it for me, you're going to lose. So if you and I, one of us is a Republican, the other one's a Democrat, on the fringes of that as well, is if I come to you and with more assumptions and curiosity, as we spoke about earlier, okay, that's not going to help. So I need to be more curiosity. And I need to approach this with a view of, okay, Sabrina, is it okay? Let me just share with you where I think you are at on this topic of X, Y, or Z. And then I have to suspend my own ego, because every part of my body, every fiber of my being will want to fight against this. But remember, feel the soles of your feet on the floor, stand on the riverbank, observe but not absorb, feel the feeling but drop the story, is I have to then be able to articulate as if the words were coming from you. And until I get an acknowledgement from you that I have got it right, I'm not allowed to move on or give any kind of justification or put any caveats in place. Because then you need to be able to think, Scott is being able to see this from my perspective. Even if I think you're so wrong on it, it's not even worth a conversation. It doesn't, but that doesn't matter for this. I demonstrate that. And then once you acknowledge that I've got that bit right, I can then say, Sabrina, is it okay if I now just share where I'm coming from on this? Is that okay? And then because you've been listened to at level 5, I understand, I'm demonstrating understanding of how you remember understand the world, your world. I can then articulate it from my perspective. And then you have to repeat what I did. You have to be able to say, Scott, let me just share with you where I think you're coming from on this particular topic. And without being passive aggressive or some subtle judgments in there, you articulate it as if the words were coming out of my mouth. And then you wait till I acknowledge. And I'm telling you, I've seen people break down in tears when people do that little exercise.
Does it help if you share what you have in common? In other words, no matter which side you're on, there's certain elements of being a citizen of a country that we probably all agree on.
Yeah, here's the irony with a lot of this. We have the same challenges in our country, Sabrina, as you do in the US. And I would say 80% of people will agree on 80% of the issues. We all want to live in a safe, tolerant, clean, supportive, aspirational society where people can get on and do well, but also we look after those in need. I mean, it doesn't matter what part of the political divide you're on. I'm sure I wouldn't, think there's anybody who disagrees with that. But often we may disagree on how we get there, and maybe a bit of 20% around the margins. But I think you're right. If we can perhaps identify what we do agree on, that can also help.
Right.
But I don't think that is necessarily enough to move us forward with where we are as citizens now. I think being able to have the difficult conversations about whether or not it's immigration, climate, gender, race, equality, whatever the topic is, without this I'm right, you're wrong, we're not going to get beyond it.
Right. And no, we may not solve it, but at least we've got an opening. And I'm thinking that I've got people in my life that I've avoided this conversation with, that I could have it with, if I'm clear that I may not change their mind, but I want to get more trust and connection with them about this thing that is kind of an invisible barrier between us.
What I will say on this is people listening and watching this, if you want to go away and try it, do so, but don't necessarily expect the person you want the conversation with to go, I've been waiting for you to have this conversation. Thank you so much. This is how we can solve world peace together, right? Don't expect that. Actually expect a bit of resistance at first, but as leaders, we go first, right? We have to be uncomfortable with this, and we either have to keep persevering or we just lay the foundation, put it out there. When you're ready, I'm here. I'd love to have this conversation with you in a respectful, kind way so we can explore different ideas and each other's viewpoints. When you're ready, I'm here. And then you can leave it. But again, at least you've made the effort. And it's like anything, there can be a groundswell in our families, in our communities, in our businesses. If we can all have these little conversations in our day-to-day life, eventually, a rising tide lifts all boats.
I love it. Scott, this has been wonderful, and I want to end with a tip for people listening, but you're such a great negotiator and a great presenter, and I'm wondering if someone's listening to this show and they would like to hire you to come work in their company, or they have a project, a negotiation project, maybe outside the company, how would they get a hold of you to do that?
Yeah, they can either go to my website, which is redcenterglobal.com, and that's center spelled in the British way, R-E, so redcenterglobal.com.
Okay.
Or they can find me on LinkedIn. I'm on there, and all the contact details. Send me an email, and more than happy to have a conversation, and all the details about the different workshops and keynotes and negotiation coaching that I do are available on the website. So that's redcenterglobal.com.
Great. And I noticed on your website you have a great offer on your book. Can you share that with people?
Yeah, my first book, Order Out of Chaos, it became a Sunday Times bestseller, much to a lot of people's surprise, my surprise, and I'm really pleased with that. And I'd love to be able to offer that free signed copies to anybody anywhere in the world, along with a great package of bonuses such as workbooks and cheat sheets and what have you that help people apply it day to day. People just cover the shipping, and people can go to orderoutofchaosbook.com, where they can find out those details, claim their free copy, and happy to support people that way as well.
Great. And we'll have that listed on the show notes. So if people forget, they can look there and get that. So give us one tip that we can start doing today.
Wow, the one tip.
Okay, two.
I would say you've got to take responsibility, personal responsibility, when you're in a conversation, in a negotiation. This is so many times we want to outsource how we're feeling or what's going on to other people or other situations. Yes, they may do or say or not say things that you want or don't want them to do. But ultimately, the only thing you have complete 100% control of is how you show up. So people take ownership, take personal responsibility for you, and then let other people do themselves there.
Great. Thank you so much for being on the show. I really, really appreciate it. And look at the show notes, everyone. There's great things that Scott has to offer you. Take care. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in. If you found value today, please subscribe and leave a review to help other leaders discover these insights. For weekly advancement strategies, subscribe to the Missing Leadership Link, my 5-minute newsletter delivering tactics top executives use to increase visibility and command respect in meetings. Find it at sabrinabrom.com/missing leadership link. Would you like to advance your career faster? Coaching with me will help. Contact me at sabrina@sabrinabrom.com about coaching or joining my exclusive Impact Executive Leadership Mastermind. Follow me on LinkedIn for daily leadership tips. Just search Sabrina Brom Executive Leadership Coach. Until next time, keep elevating your presence and advancing your career.
Thank you for joining your host, Sabrina Brom, on another Women's Leadership Podcast. If you have questions or comments, you can email her at sabrina@sabrinabrom.com. Since 1989, Sabrina and her team have helped hundreds of women managers, business leaders, and entrepreneurs with valuable trainings, articles, books, and executive coaching. For additional tips, interviews, and free access to Great Leaders Today mini course, visit www.womensleadershipsuccess.com.